So, welcome to the next edition of the Rare Business Podcast. With me today, I have Micah Solomon. Hi, Micah.
Hey there.
So, Micah, you're a speaker, consultant, best-selling author on customer service, customer experience, and company culture, and also the Financial Post, no less, named you the new guru of customer service excellence. Well, congratulations on that.
Well, thank you very much.
So, other than all of that, I mean, Micah, can you tell me a bit about your background and the work that you do to bring that sort of some of the work that you do to life?
I consult with companies on improving their customer service, their customer experience, their customer success, their customer centricity. I seriously don't care which buzzword they want as long as it has a customer in it.
Right.
And I do a lot of keynote speaking on customer service, on how customers are changing, on how to improve your company culture.
Okay.
I also I have my own business in manufacturing of all fields.
Okay.
And have been involved in some other businesses as well.
Right. Cool. Nice. Now, I also know that we're both Forbes contributors, and very recently Forbes has published a book of yours called "Your Customer is the Star: How to Make Millennials, Boomers, and Everyone Else Love Your Business." So, can you tell me a little bit about the book and how it came about, and sort of why you wrote it?
Absolutely. So I have two books out prior to this one on customer service. The first one I wrote in collaboration with some of the people who created the modern-day Ritz-Carlton brand, and then the second one, which is called High Tech, High Touch Customer Service, is more generally on how to update your customer experience and the customer service you provide.
Okay.
But I started to think that really we still are kind of assuming that hospitality and customer service are fundamental, timeless concepts. We like to think they go back to classical Greek and biblical models. You wouldn't turn away your neighbor and so forth, which I think is true, but I think we get confused by some things we've seen throughout our lifetimes. For example, a cash register, and started to think that that's the way customer service has always been.
Right.
Which I don't think is actually correct. I think that's the way customer service has been for 100 years maybe, but it needs to change, and change quickly, to serve the desires and expectations of, especially of younger customers today.
Okay. So, I mean, related to that, I mean, in the book, you talk about the coming and growing impact of the millennial generation as customers. I mean, can you outline some of the challenges that you think are starting to present themselves to companies, just to give us a little bit of an idea of where you're coming from, as it were?
The millennials are the largest generation in world history. I don't know about it in the UK. Do you? Do you know the answer to that?
I don't know. I'm not. I don't have the demographic kind of stats to my ready to hand, to my shame.
Sorry. Well, anyway, here in the US, they are the largest generation in our history. The story you always hear is how the soldiers and the sailors came back from World War II, and they got married and were very fruitful, and that was the genesis of the baby boomers, the biggest generation the world had ever seen.
Right.
The story you don't hear as often is that the kids who resulted from those happy reunions and happy interactions right after World War II have now had their own children.
Right.
And those children were born approximately 1980 to 2000.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the millennial generation.
Mm-hmm.
It's very large, and just as importantly, it has a very different upbringing from the upbringing of the boomers.
Right.
For example, Well, there's a lot of things that are different, but the most obvious differences are that they really haven't ever known telephones that weren't smartphones.
Mm-hmm.
There's never been such thing as a world before the internet for them.
Sure.
Like Adrian, you and I, well, I can only speak for myself. I still am a little bit happy if the internet works and the speed is pretty good.
Yeah, me too.
But for a millennial, that's expected. It would be as if I were to get excited when would buy a light switch. It's just not. It's expected now, and if you don't have good internet connectivity, then you've really got a problem with this generation.
Right.
So a lot of things are different, but most obviously, they have always had exposure to connectivity technology. So mobile, the web, and so forth. So that is probably the most obvious difference in their upbringing.
Okay. But I mean, I guess the other thing I was going to say was that, I mean, I've seen lots of different pieces of research and different examples about how the generational assumptions that we're making about whether somebody's Generation X or Boomers and what we can expect to see from them is blurring the lines a little bit. So, I mean, I guess my next question would be: are we not all becoming a bit or a lot millennial in our behavior, and are we not destined to become more millennial in our behavior?
Well, that's fantastic. I think I should, though, first talk about, for those listeners who have been seeing the same research that you've seen, or who haven't had the pleasure of reading my latest ebook. Is it okay if I first give what some of these millennial characteristics are?
Yeah, of course, that'd be great.
Okay, so not all of these characteristics come out of their comfort with technology. Some of these come out with how their parents raised them and what they've seen in the changing and sometimes troubling economy. So here are some ways that millennial customers are different than customers who came before.
Okay.
They embrace self-service and automated solutions. Not all the time, but much of the time.
Okay.
They want things very, very fast. They simply expect them fast because so many things are fast by and large. Overnight delivery, instant downloads, and so forth.
Right.
They often believe in shopping in a way that is congruent with their values.
Okay.
So, and this was true for boomers as well. I still remember how, our local potheads felt bad about using Ziploc bags because they were made at that time by Dow Chemical, which also made napalm.
Yeah.
And in defense of Ziploc bags, I think they're now made by SC Johnson, so they're perfectly fine now. But, so we always, I think that the wish to purchase lined up with your values has always been there, but because millennials have grown up in a world where it is actually more possible to choose many more vendors, they actively try to do this. They want just a couple more qualities of them, specifically as customers. They believe in transparency. They want to know what's going on behind a company, and they want to be able to interact in a transparent manner with even some of the people who are in high elevated positions in that company. Mm-hmm. And the last one I would say is they like a genuine style of customer service. So they don't appreciate scripted service. They're a little more relaxed in the uniforms they expect you to wear. You have a lovely hotel in London. Are you in which part of the UK are you in? I'm so sorry.
I'm in Brighton, just south of London.
Okay, all right. So if you went to Liverpool Station,
yeah,
right in the city, there is a lovely luxury hotel called Andaz, Andaz.
Yeah, I know
but
where it is. Yeah.
but it's not like other luxury hotels. The people who work there don't wear traditional hospitality outfits. What they do instead is wear actual clothes, which they purchase themselves from a designer who represents the local ethos. So they go into a shop and they buy them right off the rack. And everyone dresses more or less the same, but in a way that represents their personal style a little more. So this is a genuine style of service, and that's only the most visible trappings of it. But a genuine style of service is something that millennials are often looking for. Now, I want to segue into the question of whether we are all becoming millennials, and absolutely we are.
Yeah.
So we are. So there's actually a group on Facebook called called "My Life's Officially Over." My parents joined Facebook.
Okay. Fair enough.
So that pretty much answers your question. I read something that 7 out of 10 adults, and I'm not sure in what country or in what group, but 7 out of 10 adults are on Facebook now. So that pretty much answers your question. We are all becoming more comfortable and more expectant of mobile technology, of all of these things that the millennials got to first.
Yeah.
And here is a mind-blowing statistic.
Okay.
85% of millennials who are still teenagers, and the millennial generation crosses a lot of lines, but millennials who are still teenagers, 85% of them, who do you think they name as their best friend?
I don't know. Who do they name themselves? Don't tell me.
Well, when you were a teenager, who was your best friend?
My friends outside of my house, not my parents.
Exactly. Thank you. So, exactly. So 85% of the millennials name one of their parents rather than a peer as their friend.
Right. Wow.
So this is great. As my kids get into their teenage years, this gives me some hope. But it has a huge implication for why this generation is important to those of us who are in business, right?
Yeah.
Because not only their own wallet power, which is growing but still has some limitations, but they're also influencing their parents in style and in purchases.
Okay, that makes sense. Joining those dots, that does make a lot of sense. Now, but also in the book, I mean, as well as setting up some of these kind of challenges, you share a large number of examples of firms that are responding really well to some of these challenges. I mean, the challenges being sort of speed, transparency, being genuine, etc. I mean, can you give us a couple of examples of firms, and preferably firms that are not the usual suspects, that are responding well to some of these challenges that you've outlined?
Sure. So to start with what's already a millennial-friendly brand, Domino's Pizza.
Okay.
So one of the things that Domino's Pizza is doing is they're responding to a few of these. They're trying to make their pizza a little more genuine, which I think they have a long way to go.
Right.
But I'm a pizza snob. I mean, I live in America where I don't care what the Italian said. We invented what we think of as pizza nowadays. So Domino's isn't doing it for me in the genuine area, but they're trying. They're trying to make their pizzas a little more genuine. But where they really are succeeding is they have something new called the Pizza Tracker, the Domino's Pizza Tracker. So what they used to do is they would guarantee your pizza would arrive by delivery within 30 minutes or less.
Yeah.
But one of the wonderful and terrible things we have here in America are trial lawyers. And trial lawyers, much as they get a bad rap, they also protect us from outrageous abuses of the public good. So one of these outrageous abuses was Domino's for many years guaranteed that their pizza would arrive in 30 minutes or less.
Uh-huh.
And the traditional demographic for a Domino's delivery driver is a teenage boy.
Right.
So a teenage boy who's just gotten his new Camaro and has to make those payments, and is told by his manager that there's only 17 minutes left before the pizza's going to get there or you're fired, is going to drive at high speed in his high performance vehicle, but not like your fellas on Top Gear. He lacks their skill a little bit, so he's going to drive right into the nearest pedestrian.
Right.
So this happened many times, and Domino's decided that they didn't want to become a full employment fund for our trial lawyers here. So instead, they have evolved into the Domino's pizza tracker method. So they no longer guarantee whether it will arrive in 30 minutes or less, but they do have this fabulous app that tells you exactly where your pizza is in the production process, whether it confirms that your order's been taken, it shows that it's in the prep stage, and it shows that it's out for delivery. Because and I would think most millennials don't care whether the pizza gets there in exactly 30 minutes, or if it's in 25 minutes, or it's in 30. They're not going to get angry if it arrives in 35 minutes, as long as they know precisely when it's going to arrive.
I mean, that's interesting, because that's almost like taking an idea from the logistics and parcel delivery sort of industry and applied it in the pizza delivery industry.
Is that right? Can you tell me a little more about that?
Well, it's like, if you buy something online and you end up with a track your parcel sort of like thing,
right.
and they tell you where it goes, and interestingly, do you know where that the logic and the neuroscience behind that is? You'll see it in train stations and signs around your train is expected this time, and then there'll be a countdown. It'll be like, it's 5 minutes away, it's 3 minutes away, it's 2 minutes away, it's 1 minute away. And the reason why they do that is because there's this very, very simple idea is in the absence of other information, our mind makes stuff up.
Right.
And so you can, imagine, you imagine standing at a bus stop or a train station, and you know that your train is like 30 minutes kind of away, or you've arrived sort of 30 minutes early. Then if you've got no other information, when you stood there waiting, the waiting for 30 minutes feels like it's an age. But if actually you've got a sign that says it's 30 minutes, it's 29, it's 28, it's 27, then actually what it does do is it makes the 30 minutes feel like 30 minutes.
Well, I love it, and I think it fits with, do you know this concept of learned hopelessness?
Yeah.
So hopelessness is one of the worst possible things. So, but you won't be hopeless. You may be frustrated, but you won't be hopeless if you know something's coming along.
Exactly. It's a lot of it's about just. I talk about this concept of, there's two, if you like, energy states in the universe, whether it's to do with plant lives or people or kind of physical objects or whatever, and it's one is of inertia and one is of momentum. And if you have no information and you have no sort of effort or something to do something with it, then you're stuck in this place of inertia, and that's the place of, if you like, hopelessness. But if you've got information, you feel like things are moving, then you're in this sort of state of momentum, and therefore there's hope there.
I really like that. Though I will, this is way off topic, but I will say that for those of us who are creative, whether it's in as entrepreneurs or writers or whatever, one of the great secrets of creating is to allow yourself to be bored sometimes. I have taken my company in complete different directions because I was in a situation where I was so bored that I had nothing to do but think things up in my mind. And this is something that I think we've really lost. I certainly have. I don't have as many times that I'm bored now that I have, my iPhone. So I think that is one of the secrets to creating things.
I think that's right. I mean, there's definite value in unplugging and giving yourself space not to do anything and just stopping and not feeling like you have to fill your day, but actually getting used to just sitting with something and sitting with yourself, as it were. And I think that sort of space just allows you to, beyond a certain kind of point, when she gets past the anxiety, then actually you can start to properly think about things. Then all the kind of stuff falls away.
Exactly. I like it.
So, do you have another example?
Sure. So just a couple quick ones. So I mentioned Andaz. So Andaz does a few things different. So it's a luxury hotel. There's only a few of them. There's one in London. There's one in Maui. These are all places you should take your tax deductible research guys and go check out. And I'm not an expert on the tax code. That's just a little humor here, So they do a few things differently. They have tablets that they bring to you, and you do the check-in kind of side by side rather than across a big counter. And this fits with the idea of genuine service. Nordstrom, which is a fantastic and has a long tradition of, it actually goes back to the Alaskan gold rush, which was in the 1800s in the United States.
Uh-huh.
They are adapting to the coming of the millennials by taking doing away with or modifying the idea of a register.
Right.
The cash register. Because these young people have grown up online, so to speak. So when you're online, you don't have to wait in line, right? You go to Amazon.com and you're ready to spend a bunch of money. They don't say, well, for the privilege of spending all this money with us, we're going to make you wait for 15 minutes, right?
Sure.
Because that would be insanity. So Nordstrom and other forward-thinking retail companies realize this as well. So when you're trying on your shoes, they'll come right up to you and they'll say, I could check you out right now. And of course that has two advantages. One, which is that you're not waiting in line. And second, you're more likely to say, oh yeah, absolutely, rather than agonizing over the decision for a while.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess it's a very, very smart, if you like, sales technique, in that you're capturing somebody in the moment.
Exactly.
Excellent. I mean, so if I was to say to you that, I'm an executive, and I may have asked, you may have answered this question already, but I might argue that, you talk about the millennium generation and their kind of power and influence, but I would say that, well, actually, as an executive right now, I don't think that generation doesn't have the spending power for me, or enough spending power for me to care enough about them. And actually, most of the spending power is with other generations, like their elders, whether they're boomers or Xers or the silent sort of generation, and it won't have the spending power that, to make me really kind of care for, up to sort of 10, 15 kind of years. I mean, what would you say to that? Would you say that, yeah, that's fine and, good luck? Or would you say, actually, no, you need to be paying attention to the now base? Is that related back to the point you were making before?
A couple things. So the spending power of the millennials is going to be the largest in the marketplace, at least here in the U.S., within a very few years. I believe maybe 4 or 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Which we don't realize, we don't recognize. They are going to be the majority business travelers very, very soon, within 3 or 4 years. And that is a hugely important group. Business travelers book some 90+% of the hotel nights.
Right.
Period.
Okay.
Now, and so that, yeah. So these are. It's like, I mean, it's like a vector. It's it's just a very important demographic. So that's the first part. They are about to have a ton of spending power. The second is, start to realize that they are moving up quite quickly in organizations. And so pretty soon they're going to be in charge of the purse strings of business-to-business customers too, right?
Right.
So, I have people calling me, and I'm sure you do too, to hire me for speeches. And you can just tell that they're all of, 23 years old, right? So if I'm like, well, let me mail you my press kit, they're going to be, well, this guy is probably in his dotage, right? So But if I say I can email you my video and here's that it goes a little better. So the business to business buyers are becoming millennials as well. But the other side of it, which we've mostly already covered, is that you can't just aim your business at baby boomers.
Right.
Because you can. I was in Copenhagen recently and I saw, my Danish is pretty pathetic, but it was good enough to read that one of the clubs said that this was a club for people over age 30. And I thought, oh, that's adorable. So you can literally do it, but you can't really build a customer experience that only appeals to baby boomers.
Yeah.
Because they're becoming so similar to the millennials. I mean, what are you going to do? Check your cell phone at the door? The boomers are wanting more and more something that is similar to millennials. So that would be the other part of my answer.
Okay. Stepping back and thinking about it more of a sort of general sort of lessons for businesses now. What would you think the biggest lessons that you think firms should be learning right now, and so what sort of action do you think would you be advising them to take?
Well, since what I talk about mostly is the customer service and the customer experience, what I would like to leave them with is what I call my Jetsons test from the 1962 television series that was supposed to take place in the year 2062. So the Jetsons get a lot of things wrong. It's a very sexist world, and they're still smoking, and so forth and so on. Oh, and it's completely non-diverse. Literally everyone on the show is white.
Yeah.
So these things are very different than how things have turned out, which is with a lot more equality for women. The millennials are the most diverse generation in history, and so forth. But the Jetsons show also got many things right. And this is what I leave you with. The Jetsons test. Much of customer service in the world of the Jetsons is provided by automation, is provided by machines. And it's done so to keep humans from frustrating customers. So you can order breakfast from an automated menu at home. Instead of the secretary taking dictation, you talk into, and they didn't get this quite right, but you talk into a rewritable LP record. So they almost got it right.
Yeah.
And then where humans provide service, it adds what people want from the human interaction, which I would argue is warmth and a little bit of drama. So they do have a human receptionist who provides a warm greeting at the factory where George Jetson works, and you have Henry, who's like the handyman at the apartment building.
Yeah.
But really, what he does is he solves kind of complicated problems, like the dog's missing, things that machines aren't going to be able to solve, and he's kind of a buddy to the Jetsons family.
Right.
So I think this is a solid model for dividing your customer experience. If a human can do the job more efficiently or more effectively or with more warmth than a machine can do it, so a cardiac surgeon or a watercolor artist or maybe a waiter, if they can provide either more skilled assistance or warmer assistance, then have the human do it. But if all the human is doing is being like a replacement for a kiosk, then at least offer an automated solution as one of the options, because otherwise you're just having humans gumming up the works and there's no escape valve, escape hatch for your customers.
Interesting. So Michael, my last question I always end these interviews on is this. Is there anything that you would like to shamelessly plug?
Well, I spend much of my professional time speaking in public. I do it all over the world. I do it in the UK, I do it in Europe, I do it in the United States, in Asia, and so forth. And so if you're looking for a keynote speaker for your event, and Adrian doesn't have room in his schedule, consider me as well. Other than that, I'm a consultant who helps companies transform their customer experience. And so think of me in that role as well.
Fantastic. Micah, thank you very much. That's been kind of brilliant, and good luck with the book and everything. And thank you for your time and your insight today and the stories. And well, yeah, thank you. That's been great.
Well, thank you so much. What a pleasure.